Hello, everyone. We are really happy that we can be here. My name is Alice Němcová-Tejkalová. There's Anna Shavit and Viktoria Najnová. Kateřina Turková is currently chairing the session upstairs, so we will be just three of us here, and we will present you upon the perspectives on journalists' roles and possible content regulation among Czech professional journalists, alternative media content producers, and citizens. What do we have in front of us? In some parts overlaps with what Vito already said, because we thought that he will be more focused on the DSA, but we will manage. So we are presenting the results of the REMET Research Phase 2, and it is a part of the broader international study that you have seen before. This paper follows a kind of scholarship of McQuail and Hanic and Voss regarding the journalistic roles and what is expected from the journalists. Why is it important? We really believe that it is something that we should focus on, because all those roles that are traditionally perceived as journalistic are also fulfilled by the disinformation creators, sharers, spreaders, we can call them anyhow we would like to. And disinformation also touches the personal needs of the audience. But mainly it is focused on the supporting particular ideological or political stance. Just to give you the brief overview of methodology, it was the qualitative research. You heard we did many ethnographies. We have really interesting participants, 2 journalists, 2 alternative media content producers, and 2 citizens. The selection of the participants was purposive, because we really wanted to consider the gender, age, ideology, and also the REMET challenges we had. We really did 2 to 3 interviews with each participant and 1 observation of each participant, and we used the visual ethnography. I can later answer the questions to that. We focused on information gathering, news consumption, social media, platforms usage. And what was really interesting was that the people understood some different things that we know from the previous quantitative research, from the surveys that we would like to expect. Yeah. And the data analysis was done as the thematic analysis. And now Anna is going to introduce you some research.
Hi, everybody. So here we actually go to the people, like finally from... So here you see the sample of the journalist. What I think was the most standing, interesting observation was the difference in understanding the profession. In a way, they both were very devoted, dedicated journalists. I can say, we can probably even say, in the Czech media, successful. But in the case of the J1, it was more about, thanks or due to his long 30 years of experience, he's more commenting about how things are evolving. Whereas the J2 is definitely more consumed by the fact how to deliver, how to do the job. There was a very clear motivation that I have to improve myself in order to be a good journalist. So there was definitely more distance from the profession in the case of the first respondent, and more carrying all the problems of the world on the shoulders. That was one thing which was standing out. What was also very interesting, and we see it now more and more, is what the first respondent was saying about the media. He was basically saying the job is still the same, but our relevance is much in the societies, it's much smaller. And he was giving, or I should say they were giving examples, such as that in these days, if you're running for the office in the country, you don't have to talk to the media we understand as the official media. So he comes from one of the biggest medium. They didn't get the interview by the ex and future prime minister in the last 4 or 5 years. So he was... But once again, the approach was like, let me tell you about an interesting fact. The politicians do not need us, which was very interesting to see. Then another interesting thing, because it's a private-owned media, that he would say there's nothing like a free medium, what you're talking about, there's a market, you have to make a profit. And this is a guy who is a liberal, who is definitely not driven by a profit. And also, but I think we can talk about a generational gap here, clearly. Also with the topics, the other journalist was mentioning how difficult it is to cover. Like the first one is doing politics, the other one is focusing on most on every currently appealing issues. Then if we look a little bit more here, it was interesting because the role changed when we talk about the values and principles. The J1 was more talking about personal values and stance, and J2 was definitely more focusing on the implementation of things, commenting on the involvement in Hungary. I mean, it's a local obsession to compare ourselves with Hungary, Poland, or Slovakia. And yes, also the fact that you can be free if you have money, that was an approach, and media fatigue. But generally, I think what is interesting to observe is the different understanding or own responsibility and the role in the profession. So I know it's a small sample, but these were prominent journalists, and it would be interesting, of course, to do more interviews, but I will pass on. Everybody wants to know about those.
Yes, thank you. So I will talk about alternative media content producers and citizens. So first, we had two participants in our alternative media producers group. Both of them were from or are from upper middle class. The female A1 is about 25 years old. The male A2 is about 40 years old. So the female producer was was one of the core members that of the group that has a social media profile for young audience, and she was up for using all possible communication tools except for TikTok and platform X because of the ideological reasons. Our second participant, he has a disability pension, but when he used to work, as you can see, in various fields, and due to his health problems, he chose to start alternative media producer career on full-time. He shares the anti-system information, and his main sources of information are from subscriptions, from newsletters, and also messages from his followers and friends. He started with TikTok, but currently he's also on YouTube, which he uses as a main platform, and also Facebook and Telegram. So, but he uses like a lot of channels and platforms because he's really focused on sharing the information he sees as important. Regarding their approach to journalists' role and also EU regulations, well, the first participant, A1, she is very liberal. She is supporting human rights, and actually she's afraid she's afraid that there is a threat to democracy due to populism. And this is actually connected to the TikTok that she mentioned, that EU and other international organizations should focus more on TikTok because it is a security risk, and also if it won't be maybe somehow dealt with, it can also cause more harm because media and politicians will be forced to use it for their communication too. And regarding our second participant, he values democracy and freedom of speech, but he also thinks that the regulations, he's actually like in opposite of our first participant, because he claims that EU should not dictate us to people what they can do or not. He's against censorship except for the protection of children. and actually thinks that social media platforms are scared of the upcoming regulations, so they overcheck published content. Regarding our citizens, we had also two participants. One of them was female, approximately 20 years old. She is from LGBTQI plus group, and she is currently studying. And the second participant is male, 70 years old, and all from upper middle class. So we also see the generational gap there. He is now retired, but he is a part-time sports coach. Here it was very interesting that they actually both expressed that they avoid consuming news, and if they consume them, they only focus on like the fields that they are really interested in. For example, in our C1 female participant case, she's very interested in games and subculture related to that, to motion design that she studies, etc. So she actually chooses the YouTube channels and other news channels to see anything about this field. And C2, he mainly focuses on searches for sports news. Their approaches to journalists and journalism. Well, the first participant, she actually expressed frustration with subscription because she is demotivated when she's reading an article, and then in the middle it stops and says like you have to subscribe to continue. It really demotivates her, and she does not look for this kind of information or topic from other sources. So it's something that she's like, okay, I'm now stopping and looking forward to something else. And the censorship, she also specified that censorship is, she thinks that it's harmful in case when people or the readers and audience should actually see thank you. Actually see the realities of life. For example, war in Ukraine, that in the articles, the photos that are very authentic, they are sometimes censored, and she thinks that it should not be like that. But of course, there should be some kind of warning, which we can see. Then C2, he actually perceives journalists as those who are trying to influence the public according to the current official state politics. And now, very shortly, well, C1 is very supportive of freedom of speech. Nevertheless, she thinks that it is important to limit hate speech, cyberbullying, and discrimination. So she's very open for regulations regarding this. And the second participant, he doesn't think that regulations are long-lasting. He thinks that they are also important, but that there will be some platforms that still will find a way how to avoid them, or will be created new ones. Thank you. Back to Alice.
Yeah, I will conclude quite briefly and quickly. What we found was that there was really kind of interesting how people were thinking about the democracy and the threats towards democracy, because it was visible that everyone except of the journalist one was really afraid that the democracy is threatened, but for very different reasons. The people who were already following the disinformation websites thought that the democracy is the freedom of speech that cannot be anyhow I would say censored, as they say, and the other people who were supporting more the liberal stances were afraid that there are big issues and big threats against the democracy, simply rooting in the perspective that everything should be okay in the online environment. Regarding the roles of journalists, some of the main topics of our article or paper, we saw that some participants really regarding the alternative source media or alternative media content producers as fulfilling the informative and monitoring role of journalism for them, because they were simply not trusting the mainstream media or legacy media. And what we would really like to stress, my really last point, it is necessary to explain the regulations and broadly discuss them and get also influencers on board and to deliver the message, because otherwise, if we only use the traditional and legacy media to deliver the message, we will be not successful, because we really need to get more alternative media content producers who are supporting these stances to be involved. Otherwise, we will miss some part of the audience. Thank you very much for your attention.